everybody, and welcome to Moment of Truth with Amy Chen Mills. That's me, Amy Chen Mills. We come to you every first and third Monday from 6 to 7 p.m., bringing you clear thinking on confusing topics in challenging times. And tonight, we are feeling the Bern. Bernie Sanders and AOC have been touring the nation and the state, most recently stopping in Bakersfield and Folsom, California. And in the studio, we have two people who went to see Bernie. That was me, and also Denise Elerick is here. She is the co-chair of the Mid-County Democratic Club and founder of the Harm Reduction Coalition. Is there anything else you want to add to your bio, Denise?
Nope, that's pretty much me in the present right now. Lifelong resident and a diehard Democrat that's getting darker blue by the day.
And does darker blue mean more progressive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that would speak to Bernie Sanders and AOC. Tell me why you decided to go all the way to Folsom, which is literally, 2.5, 3 hours with traffic. They spoke at 6:30 was when they actually got on stage, or 6. So it was traffic time.
We didn't leave early enough. And so full disclosure is we realized, well, Bruce, my husband, was headed up the hill and I was going to come in later, but the line was over 2.5 miles long.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, everybody's shaking their heads, but everybody's in a great mood. They go, we're not going to make it in. So we all set up our lawn chairs outside, and we had live stream, and the people across the street had it on their speakers in their house with people in the front yard blaring. But we went because we have family in Sacramento, so we always have a place to crash and another visiting to accomplish. But we were so inspired with the current thread of what's happening. And we had attended a Kamala Harris rally in Las Vegas.
Yeah. And
it was so different. And we stood and waited so long. We thought, if we got there by 4, we'll be fine. And that was not the case.
No, people got there at like 8 o'clock
That's
in the morning.
what I heard.
I know. So I decided to go. I was all in a carpool with a group, and then that completely fell apart. And then I was like, all right, forget it. I'm not going to drive by myself. And then Lonnie Faulkner, who ran for county supervisor, she's also with the DCC. She's also with Mid-County Dems. Some of you out there may know her. She approached me the night before and said, hey, is anyone going to... I was in a little group, and she said, hey, is anyone going to Folsom to see Bernie? I said, well, I've been thinking about it. So the next morning we were off and running, actually, and picked up my daughter at university and got to take her for her first political rally with candidates, or actually elected officials, right? Bernie Sanders and AOC. And, because I'm with KSQD, I was able to go get through the press entrance, which I'm not even going to tell you about because you'll just feel...
No, we need to have press there. No, that's very important.
So we sailed right in, and
I went with my lifelong friend, and we're texting and calling each other because she made it in and I wasn't, and she was having a different experience from me, but I was so thrilled to have us all be there. She was inspired. These are I would never have done this years ago, but I need some inspiration. Yeah, I need some hope.
Yeah, that's what my one of my girlfriends said to me. I said, I wasn't even sure. I was like, well, why would you go all the way to Folsom to see Bernie? Because you could just see the live stream, or you could just see Bernie.
It's different. It's like listening to a CD versus being at a live concert.
And she said that. She said, when you go to hear Bernie, the world feels like it's all right again. Yeah. That's what she said. And I said, well, that's a good reason to go. So I said, I'm going to go. So when we got there, it didn't look so busy just driving up to the facility. But then once you parked your car, got out of your car, started walking, first of all, there were Trump supporters on every corner, not like a whole bunch, but there were Trump supporters, I don't know what they were blasting some kind of message or something. I don't know what it was. And there were people talking about how the Democrats were the racists because of, before the Southern Strategy and Nixon, they keep sort of coming up with these tired old tropes, which are really lies about our political history. But they were few and far between, not a whole bunch.
Yeah, they were driving up and down the street where the line was queued up. For the most part, unless they were screaming at them earlier, everybody was really ignoring them. They weren't really getting a bite.
Yeah. They weren't people were very cool, calm and collected. And then when we got up to the top of the hill where the community college was, oh my gosh, the line was, like you said, someone said it was 3 miles long.
Yeah, it was
And people had been waiting there forever. So a lot of people, just started setting up their lawn chairs out on the streets, outside the gates.
Yeah.
And so, let's go to a clip of me finally getting in, and I'm looking around, and this is what and by the way, folks, we will have clips of Bernie and AOC talking, what they actually said at the event, and some interviews with folks who were there, so please stay tuned. And also, we want to thank everyone who has donated to KSQD during this pledge drive. We will take calls during our audio clip time, but we don't have help today, so I'm going to go answer the phones myself if you want to donate, but we have made our $30,000 goal already for our pledge drive. So thank you so much, community.
Woohoo. That's a woohoo.
That's a woohoo for community radio.
We love our K-Squid.
We do.
We need our K-Squid now.
All right. Let's go to Bernie Sanders in Folsom. We're here in Folsom at the Bernie rally with AOC on the 14th of April. Actually, the 15th of April. It is so crowded here. The line went around the block and like a mile down the road. There are so many people here. It is standing room only for the first many yards away from the speaking podium. And there are also a lot of Trump supporters out front, in pop-up tents with big flags, but overwhelmingly Bernie support here. The airplane flying around. Do you remember that? And it's
Folsom is Trump country.
Folsom is Trump country, and inside the athletic field where the event was, did you see what everybody was doing?
I can only guess. What was everybody doing?
Little old ladies, senior citizens, churchgoers were all giving the finger to the airplane, like all at once. And then after a while, everybody just ignored the airplane. But it kept circling for quite a while.
It circled because people don't have anything better to do. But the words from AOC, I just heard her loud and clear. She said, "You see that plane that says Folsom is Trump country? No. Folsom is our country." And that was very truthful. That got quite a cheer and roar.
There were about 30,000 people there.
It made quite a roar.
And
that was beautiful.
30,000 people in a city of, I think, 80,000.
Yeah.
Not very. So, of course, people were coming from Merced. When I was interviewing people were coming from a lot of local areas, Sacramento, Sonoma, etc. That is actually Republican territory, though, if you want to look at who is getting elected there. And Kevin Kiley, I believe, is the current representative who's a Republican. And they were pointing out that Kevin Kiley needs to go. Kevin Kiley is not doing in-person town halls. I think he's saying that those are so old school or something.
That's right, where I belong.
Yeah. And so I just want Eric Swalwell is going to be doing a town hall tomorrow in Kevin Kiley's district.
Oh, beautiful.
In Folsom.
That's what I love about this event. As soon as the Republicans said, no, don't do any town halls.
Yeah.
AOC and Bernie said, oh, we'll come. We're doing them.
Yeah. So
and that's what's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So Eric Swalwell, who's not in that district, who's from the 14th district, which leans heavily Democratic, is going to do, and it's sold out. You can look it up, but it's sold out. I will give out the link if you think you can get in. So if you're pressed, let's say, maybe you can still get in. So there was a band. There was a person. I don't know this person's name, but the band is called Philharmonic that played live for some time. You heard Prince, Purple Rain. We had speeches from Jane Kim, director of the Working Families Party, Lorena Gonzalez, president of the California Federation of Labor Unions, and Everett Kelly, president of the AFGE, which is the American Federation of Government Employees. I'm going to encourage you to go to their website where you can help to support federal employees at this time. And we have a little clip of Everett Kelly, who's very actually powerful speaker. He was the black man who spoke. I don't know if you saw him, but he was like yelling the whole time, which you kind of had to do in that crowd.
Yeah.
Here's Everett Kelly. It's just a small clip. That was Everett Kelly, president of the American Federation of Government Employees. Please go to their website and support our government employees at this time. I mean, when did it become an American thing to do slash and burn layoffs? When did we get behind, when did the American people decide to get behind that?
No stranger times. It makes no sense.
I know.
People are disposable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I think AOC summed it up pretty well. We have a clip of AOC sort of talking about all the bad. I was going to spell out bad, but I don't have to spell out bad. I have to spell out the next word. All the bad SH*T going on right now. Yeah. This is AOC, who came out after these three speakers, and people were pumped. They were screaming and shouting and yelling and clapping for AOC, and here she is.
We are here together because an extreme concentration of power, greed, and corruption is taking over our country like never before. Oligarchy. And we must acknowledge forthright the terrifying moment that we are in right now. That what we are hearing and seeing with our own eyes is, in fact, happening. We are watching as our neighbors, students, and friends are being fired, targeted, and disappeared. It is real. People we love are being targeted and harassed just for being LGBTQ. Our co-workers, U.S. citizens, and immigrants alike are being disappeared off the street by men in vans with no uniform. Educators are being fired for teaching American history accurately. And activists are being detained with no charge or evidence for using their First Amendment rights, especially if they are using those First Amendment rights to speak up for Palestinians and to end the war in Gaza. In fact, the Trump administration admits that it has jailed a young father and husband, Mahmoud Khalil, without any evidence or charge of a crime. They admit that they've thrown Mahmoud in a cell thousands of miles away from his family because he attended a protest and they did not like the content of his speech. But I want to be very clear, Folsom. Donald Trump's detention of Mahmoud Khalil for his speech is anti-American, and we demand his release.
That was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in Folsom with Bernie Sanders, where everybody was 30,000 people were feeling the burn. We're here with Denise Elerick, co-chair of the Mid-County Democratic Club, founder of the Harm Reduction Coalition, fellow traveler to Folsom to see Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We just heard a clip from AOC at that event, and now we're going to go to someone who was there and someone I interviewed and asked about, why was she there? Her name was Rebecca Santos, and here she is. I'm here at the Bernie Sanders and AOC event in Folsom, California on the 15th, and I'm talking with
Rebecca Santos.
And Rebecca, where do you hail from?
Sacramento.
Okay, great. So you came out, it's not too far from Sacramento.
Yeah, 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive.
Yeah, and so is Folsom actually Trump country? We had an airplane flying above us with that banner.
I think Folsom is more conservative than central Sacramento, that's for sure. My guess is that it is more Trump country.
Okay. So it'd be interesting to find out how many actual, Folsom residents are here. Have you met any?
I would guess there's a lot. We stood in line. Well, we got here and we're a mile and a half back in the line. And there was another mile behind us. And there were a lot of people from their homes wishing us well and, helping us out with water and things like that.
Oh, from the homes on the streets where you guys were waiting in line? Okay, gotcha, cool. And why were you here?
Why am I here? I'm terrified about the loss of our democracy, the loss of our free speech, the loss of our without due process. It's just, that's what democracy is, that's what our country is, and we haven't in many generations needed to stand up and fight for our very survival in this way. And we need to get out everywhere. Everybody needs to speak up while we still can.
How long did you wait in line?
It took us 3 hours to get in.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it took us 30 minutes of fast walking to get to the end of the line that just kept growing after we got in line, and then another, quite a bit of time to move.
Thank you for your persistence.
Thank you.
That was Rebecca Santos from Sacramento at the Folsom rally with Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm sitting here with Denise Elerick, who also went to Folsom. I went to Folsom with my daughter and Lonnie Faulkner. It was actually very special to be there with my daughter. I remember thinking, like, this moment, if I could just freeze it in time, because she was pretty excited. We have a little clip of audio with her, too, when I interviewed her at the end. Yeah. But, I mean, I have sort of a summary of why I think Bernie and AOC are so important right now. And I know that people say they have flaws. We can criticize anybody.
Right.
And, frankly, the left is excellent at doing that.
Yeah.
But tell me why you think, like, what is Bernie and AOC's message that you think is most important?
Their message is, it's happening now. Fascism is here. It's not tomorrow. We're late, and we all have to be involved. And that we are 3 seats away from getting Congress back into a democratic leadership that can help protect the country. And
they did hammer on that.
They did, and it's courage. She's a waitress from New York who got 78% of the vote in the primary and unseated a incumbent, a Democratic
huge establishment Democrat.
And she in the primary, everybody was thinking it'd be a runoff, and it takes courage in people like that to come out and say, I want better for my country, and I have ideas, and I have the time and the courage to do so. So I'm hoping that younger people are inspired by this message of running for offices in any place where they feel
Do we ever
impassionate.
need younger people?
Everywhere, in every level
half
of
what we're
government.
dealing with is just the gerontocracy, unwilling to let go.
I know.
Unwilling to let go.
Yeah.
And taking the entire,
Yeah.
I mean, if you include the climate crisis, the whole planet down with them, not just our democracy, but the one thing that really struck me when I was hearing from Bernie and AOC, especially Bernie, and we'll be hearing from Bernie in the second half of the hour, and we'll be hearing more from AOC just in a minute here, was, here's what's basically fundamentally true. We are the wealthiest nation in the world. There is so much good we can do. We can help people. We can build low-income and affordable housing. We can provide people with health care for all, with Medicaid for all, or Medicare for all, I'm sorry. And it's ridiculous that we're not. It is absurd that we're not doing that, because every other developed, quote unquote, nation in the world is providing more health care than we are, practically. And, the Nordic countries, of course, do exceptionally well in providing services for people, and they do exceptionally well in the states of well-being of their population. And here we have these greedy oligarchs and billionaires, and Bernie's going to talk about that. But let's follow up. Let's have AOC speak to this. This is we're going to have to cut this off before the half-hour break, but let's get started on AOC. We're going to just let her run for a little bit. And if you want to call in and put us, we're already met our pledge goals, but if you really love this station, if you love this show, please call in at 831-900-5773. I'll take your phone call while we're playing AOC, or you can just go to the website and donate. Just click on donate, and that's 123 easy. And here is AOC.
We also know that the agenda of dark money to keep our wages low and to loot our public goods like Social Security and Medicare, to give to the rich, we know that this is deeply unpopular the American people, Republican, Independent, and Democrat alike. But just look at what Republicans in Congress have been quietly doing. They have been voting to advance cuts on hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid and veterans benefits so that they can take that money and give it to their donor class. All in the form of paying for tax cuts for the rich and sweetheart government contracts for their companies like SpaceX. And Folsom, you know who voted for that, by the way? The man who represents you right here in Congress, Kevin Kiley. But you know how many people are here in Folsom today? 26,000 of you have gathered to tell Kevin Kiley, hell no! Hands off our Medicare! Hands off our Medicaid! Hands off our Social Security! Kevin Kiley knows that this is not what you want. He knows that it is deeply unpopular. He knows that it hurts the people of Folsom. But he is not there to serve working families. He is there to serve himself and the billionaire class that put him there. But he knows that the only chance he has to get away with such unpopular and destructive decisions is to stoke deep divisions along race, identity, and culture to keep all of us fighting and distracted. This has been the big money playbook, not just now, but for decades. And we are not going to fall for it anymore. But Folsom, this is why Donald Trump is not an aberration. He is the logical, inevitable conclusion of an American political system dominated by corporate and dark money. And if we are to defeat him, we must defeat the system that created him. Money in politics is the hand of oligarchy. America, we are at a crossroads. We can either have extreme wealth inequality with the toxic division and corruption that it requires to survive, or we can have a fair economy for working people along with the democracy and freedoms that uphold it. Oligarchy or democracy, but we cannot have both. I grew up in a working class family. My mom cleaned houses, and my dad worked on a small business. And my parents worked themselves to the bone so that my brother and I could just have a shot. The American dream. And for a moment there, it looked like we were going to make it. We had a home, bills were getting a little less stressful to pay, and I was doing well in public school. And what may have looked like a modest life to others was a dream come true for us. But suddenly, when I was a teenager, my dad was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And after a long fight, we lost him. My dad actually passed away in September of 2008, just as the economy crashed in the Great Recession and millions of jobs across the country vanished. It felt like the little world of our family fell apart, just as the larger world was falling apart too. And overnight, my mom was left alone to figure out how to provide and put 2 kids through school, keep our house, pay off our medical bills, all on a house cleaner salary. And that is how I became a waitress, to help pay the bills. Because at that time, just as it is now, it was millions of working families who paid the price while billionaires and thieves who defrauded our financial system got off richer than ever before. And not a single one of them went to jail. And now that story that Republicans mock, not mine, but all of ours, when they say that a waitress or a working person is unqualified to serve in Congress. But the fact is, Folsom, many of us are far more qualified to know what real life is really like.
That was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez speaking with passion and fire in Folsom.
Inspirational, totally inspirational.
Very inspirational. I mean, we need to clone her actually, and Bernie, and have them, all these clones, I guess, just take over the country. That would be good. You can hear her voice is a little, it's getting raspy because they were just in Bakersfield like that morning. They were in LA the day before.
And then they're off to Montana and Idaho. They've been in Idaho, Utah. I mean, they're going to some red places.
Are they going to Montana next?
They did. They went to Missoula right after Folsom.
Okay. So, because I checked the website to be able to tell people where they're going next, but I didn't see I think they're taking a little break, a well-deserved break.
Yeah.
But, it was just exciting for me to have my daughter there to see a young woman. And she was more excited, I'll tell you what, about AOC than this old dude, Bernie, right? But it was great. And that's what we need. It's just the insanity that we're in is insanity. And so let's do this. We'll go to our half-hour break, and then we'll come back and we're going to listen to another short clip from AOC, which I think is poignant at this time, and then we'll go into listening to Bernie.
KSQD thanks GPI Builders for supporting this program. GPI Builders is a locally owned and operated full-service construction company with more than 10 years of experience and expertise. GPI Builders specializes in home additions, ADUs, and residential remodels throughout the Bay Area. For more information, 1-800-916-8343 or gpibuilders.com. Thank you, GPI Builders, for supporting community radio, KSQD.
Drink good drugs since I only live once, or ask God for some help so I don't go to hell. Oh, invest in my health and acquire much wealth. Either way, it's something, cause we end up the same. What's it all mean? 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 What's it all mean?
We may all come from different places, but we share so many of the same experiences. So to all those who came here today unsure of whether or not this is where you belong, I want to say affirmatively that you do. To say, no matter your race, religion, gender identity, or status, if you even voted for Donald Trump in the past and are open to changing your mind, come on in. If you are willing to fight for someone you don't know, you are welcome here. If you are willing to fight for working people regardless of who they are, how they identify, or where they come from, you are welcome here. Because here everyone is valued. But we have to stand together. We cannot be tempted to turn in our neighbors or be fooled into thinking that we're really that much different than the trans kid who wants to get accepted at school. We can't fall for the ruse that we're that different than the dreamer who wants to provide for their family and fulfill our country's promise. It is standing together without exception to reject division. That is the only way that we can win. So I hope that you see this movement is not about partisan labels or purity tests, but it is about class solidarity. The thousands of you who came out here today to stand sacred promise to one another. And our goal is to commit to building the kind of country that we all deserve. And we will make that promise, to take care of each other on our worst days and to share in the successes of our best. Thank you, Folsom. Thank you for having me. And with that, it is my honor to introduce someone.
That's AOC just about to introduce Bernie Sanders to the stage to an electrified crowd of almost 30,000 people in Folsom, California. I'm here with Denise Elerick, co-chair of the Mid-County Democratic Club, founder of the Harm Reduction Coalition, who was sitting outside. And tell us a little bit about the scene outside. You said even though you couldn't get in because the line was 3 miles long, what was it like?
We just, it was a place to meet your neighbor. It was a lot like, we also went to Sacramento. We rode the train on April 6th or whatever for the hands-off protest at the Capitol building, and it was very picnic style. So we just adopted that picnic style in Folsom and put up our chairs and met our neighbors next to us who were from Sierra County and talked. There were children in line and teenagers, elderly people, differently abled people. It was just such a beautiful cross section of people.
There were a lot of differently abled people.
There were
a lot of people who were in wheelchairs, and I was surprised actually.
Yeah, I think over 3,000 people went in the ADA entrance alone, and I was walking with people down that hill and they needed to turn back. It's not easy going to these crowded events with differing abilities, but everybody was talking about, that part of the state, about how it's changed since the pandemic. And there's been more Democrats moving to the area, not at all turning it blue by any stretch, but I saw more American flags, but then I saw neighbors. We were right in front of their house for hours, and they said, "Thank you for coming."
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
Police officers. There wasn't a heavy police presence.
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah,
and there was just a, cross traffic kind of directing, and they told my friend, "We're really glad you're here. Glad you made the trip." I mean, that's.
And you said there was a guy in a truck playing Styx music.
If you're listening, sweet long-haired gray hippie guy in the blue Honda CRV with rainbows all over it, with all the windows down, and he had Styx cranked up at the top of the stereo, and he was singing every lyric of every word, and my heart beats for 80s music. And he was a riot. And I have to tell you one quick story. There was an older gentleman walking down the hill from a very gated community, and he reminded me so much of my father because he came down the hill in these wingtip shoes, blue jeans, and a dress shirt. And he had very serious walking problems. He walked with a side limp. And he was walking back home, and he would take 10 steps, lean up against a tree, wipe off this step, take 10 more.
Wipe off his forehead, you mean?
Yeah, wipe off the forehead. And then Bruce and I swung by to see if we could give him a ride. And other people saw him struggling too. So they were walking with him up the hill, taking the breaks because he said, "Oh no, I'm just right up there." And he wasn't going to miss this historic event in his neighborhood. And it was just so cute to see. He might not live to the next election, but he wasn't going to miss that. And that was sweet.
Well, if you look at a map of Kevin Kiley's district, the Republican, Folsom sort of down at the left tip, and then the rest of it is all up in those foothills. And so that's, and Bernie and AOC were very forthright about we've got to elect someone else and get rid of Kevin Kiley here. So just folks, if anyone's wanting to do door knocking or whatever, that's going to be it's District 3 in California. That's going to be a seat that's probably, hopefully competitive. We'll see. Okay, we're going to go to Bernie now. AOC was just about to introduce Bernie. I'm sure people are just waiting to hear from Bernie. I do want to say that the other thing that I think that's happening with Bernie and AOC, and we need much more of this, is the class analysis of the situation. I mean, I was reading a New York Times opinion piece by, I want to say Russell, I can't remember the name of this person. I should have brought it in. But I mean, this person was doing like somersaults and flips to not name the actual we're seeing the decline of our society because of technology and we don't get together anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not talking about climate change. You're not talking about income disparity. It is so obvious since Citizens United that this country, and I agree with AOC, if it weren't Donald Trump, it'd be someone else, because the billionaires were always always going to take over when they got to this level of power and control of the U.S. Congress and the electoral systems. And that's what we're dealing with. If not Trump, I swear it would have been someone else. Bernie's probably going to say just what I said, but we're going to hear from Bernie right now. We may have to cut him off because we have other interviews with folks in the crowd. But let's go to Bernie's speech.
And clearly, to Mr. Trump and people all over this country, we as Americans will not accept oligarchy. We will not accept authoritarianism. And we will not accept a rigged economy where working people struggle while billionaires become richer. We will not accept a situation where, if you can believe it, one man, Elon Musk, you've heard of Elon. Elon owns more wealth than the bottom 50% of households in America. That, brothers and sisters, is insane. We have got to, together, create an economy that works for working people, not just Mr. Musk and the billionaire class. Make a bad situation even worse. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, never had more inequality ever in America than we have today, Mr. Musk and the Republicans in Congress are working on a reconciliation bill. And this is legislation that would give $1.1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%, and they pay for that by cutting Medicaid by $880 billion, cutting nutrition programs for hungry kids, affordable housing. Now you've got a congressman here whose name is Kevin Kiley. So I don't know if Mr. Kiley is watching the live stream or not. But Mr. Kiley, I think some of your constituents have a message for you. Vote to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs that the working class of this country desperately needs. And by the way, Mr. Kiley, I have a feeling that some of your constituents will love to sit down and chat with you on that issue. Alexandria comes from New York City. I come from Vermont. We've come a long way here. The least you can do is sit down with your constituents right here. You know, as I observe what's going on in D.C., I think a little bit about American history. And I think about Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg in 1863, and I think you all know this. Lincoln was there a few days after that horrific battle where 20,000 Union soldiers were killed or wounded in the fight to end the nightmare of slavery. And Lincoln looked out on the field just a few days after that carnage, and he said, you know what? Our vision of America is a government of the people Alexandria and I are here this evening. We believe in a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. And when we talk about oligarchy, it's not just the incredible economic power that the billionaires have, which is unprecedented. And it's not just about the massive income and wealth inequality, which is also unprecedented. Today in America, as a result of that disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, billionaires like Musk can put unlimited amounts of money into both political parties. So Mr. Musk himself put $270 million to elect Donald Trump as president. And that for Musk was a pretty good investment. Not a lot of money when you're worth $300-400 billion. So it's a modest investment. And his reward was to become the most powerful person in the United States government. But I must tell you, it is not only Musk and the Republicans who are putting huge amounts of money to make sure they elect the candidates of their choice. It is Democrats as well. And there is a reason why Democrats for so many years have not had the courage to stand up to the ruling class and represent working people, and that is because that party is dominated by corporate interests. So today we say loudly and clearly, and I think in saying this I speak for conservatives and progressives and moderates. The time is now to get rid of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Brothers and sisters, it is not just oligarchy that we are fighting. We are fighting a president who undermines our Constitution every single day and threatens our freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. We are fighting a president whose agents are rounding up innocent people off the streets, throwing them into unmarked vans, sending them to detention centers here in the United States, in El Salvador and elsewhere. That is not what happens in a democracy. That's what happens in a dictatorship. And together we are not going to allow Donald Trump to create an authoritarian society. You know, the founding fathers of our country were not dummies. They had just fought a war against the British Empire and defeated the most powerful person on earth at that time, the King of England. And they sat around and they said, you know what? As we develop our new country, this is in the 17th, what they were saying is we do not want to give one person unlimited power. They developed a separation of powers. We got an executive, a legislative branch, and a judiciary to keep check on each other. And every single day, you got a president who wants more and more power for himself. He is usurping the power of the Congress. He judiciary in America. Supreme Court recently ruled in a 9-0 decision that a man who was illegally picked off the street and sent to El Salvador has got to be returned. A 9-0 decision of the Supreme Court makes the president obey the law. And it is not just Congress and the judiciary whose power he is trying to assume. It is the media as well. Apparently, he does not understand that in America we have freedom of speech. He has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, the Des Moines Register. His FCC is now investigating NPR and PBS. Just the other day, he said that CBS should lose its license. You know what they did? They ran a program which was critical of some of his policies. How terrible. And this is from a guy who has spent his entire political career attacking people, lying about people in the most vicious ways. So we say to Trump, if you can't take criticism, get out of politics.
That was Bernie Sanders in Folsom, California. And I'm here with Denise Elerick, who is with the Mid-County Democratic Club and the Harm Reduction Coalition, talking about going to Folsom to see Bernie and AOC. A couple notes, the music at the half-hour mark at the break was the music from that event. You can also find that music and all these speeches, the full speeches, at the Bernie Sanders YouTube channel, the entire event at Folsom. And the music was from Philharmonic. Phil, like the name, HARMONIK. They're also on Instagram. The sound that you hear in the background is this helicopter that was flying around. I don't know if it's a news helicopter. There was a helicopter flying around, or maybe it could have been police, I don't know, or security. And there was also a plane flying around, like a what do they call it, biplane, with just the small planes with the two wings on each side.
With the banner.
Yeah, with the banner that said Trump country. They went away after a little while, and no one paid them any mind, really. I want to also mention that there was another clip from a speech I wanted to play about health care for all, which was so profound because, as I said at the top of the hour earlier, you know, one thing that Bernie says is how wealthy we are and how we could just be taking care of people instead of just tossing people out onto the streets as we do.
I have talked to doctors in Vermont and all over this country who treat patients who walk in the door and they say, why didn't you come in here when you first felt your symptoms? And the patient said, I'm uninsured or my deductible is too high. I just didn't have the money. That is outrageous. It is unacceptable. We must pass Medicare for all. And guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. When we talk about what oligarchy is about, and when we talk about what corporate greed is about, I want you to hear one fact that you won't see in the corporate media or hear in the halls of Congress. Right now, as a nation, our life expectancy, how long we live, is about 4 years less than other major countries. That's pretty bad. Do you know what's even worse? If you are working class in America, on average, you will live 7 years shorter lives than if you are wealthy. And you know why that is? Why is that? You got it, everybody else. The word is stress. I grew up in a working class family. And I've been all over this country talking to working class people. Do You know what it's like to wake up in the morning and wonder about whether you're going to be able to feed your kids or not? You know what it's like to know when you get sick or your mother is ill, you may not have the money to get the medical care you need? You know what it's like that when your car breaks down, you don't have the $1,000 you need to repair it, you can't get to work? All over this country, people are struggling every single day just to survive. Brothers and sisters, in the richest country in the history of the world, we can do a hell of a lot better than that. It is you. That's not rhetoric. If we are going to defeat Trumpism, if we're going to create the kind of nation that we know we can become, it's going to take millions and millions of working people standing up together, educating, organizing, knocking on doors, forming unions. We can do it. Now, what the ruling class of this country does, and they do it brilliantly, I must confess, what they do is essentially tell you, you are powerless. Ain't nothing you can do, because we, the oligarchs, we got all the money, we got all the power, we own the media, we own the Congress. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Well, we are here this evening to tell them, hey guys, you got it wrong. Because when we stand together and not let Trump and his friends divide us up by the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation, or our religion. When we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. In this pivotal moment in American history, what I have discovered, as Alexandria and I go all over this country, we are seeing unbelievable turnouts. We were in Idaho. We had 12,000 people coming out in Idaho. There are 20,000 people in Salt Lake City, a Republican state. I think what the American people, Republicans, Independents, Democrats are saying, sorry, Mr. Trump, we don't want your oligarchy. Sorry, Mr. Trump, too many men and women have fought and died to defend democracy. You're not going to take us into a military. And sorry, Mr. Musk, we're going to create an economy that works for us, not just for you. So, brothers and sisters, I recognize that the oligarchs have enormous power. They have unlimited amounts of money, and they are extraordinarily greedy. They want it all. But the last that I have heard, I'm not a mathematician, but I do know that 99% is a hell of a lot bigger number than 1%. Trumpism, let us create
I want to make sure we get these couple of interviews in. One of them is actually with my daughter at the end of this event. It was very special to go with her. She was so excited to see AOC. So this is my daughter after listening to Bernie Sanders and AOC.
I'm here with my daughter, Tori Naeem, my media assistant, in the press box at the Bernie Sanders AOC event in Folsom, California. What did you think?
I thought it was amazing, and it was exactly what we needed.
How come?
Sometimes, especially in this political climate, it's easy to lose hope and think that you're all alone fighting for your cause. But coming here and seeing the turnout was inspiring and inspired me to keep fighting.
Thank you so much, Tori Naeem.
It was great to be there with her. That was probably what made it the most special for me. Obviously, okay, I'm going to be quiet now about being a mom. We also bumped. There were a lot of young people there. Actually, did you see young people outside?
Lots of young people. Yeah.
And so we actually bumped into a whole gaggle of young people and found out they were with the Sonoma State Young Democrats. And so we're going to play this interview with the Sonoma State Young Democrats that we were bumped into as we were trying to get out of this out of this field, athletic field.
I'm here at the Bernie Sanders AOC event in Folsom, California, and I'm talking to
Delvin Hill.
What's that?
Delvin Hill.
Delvin Hill?
Yeah.
And why are you here, Delvin Hill?
I'm here with my college club, the SSU Young Democrats.
All right, so you came because you're a Democrat?
Yeah.
And is there any other reason why you came?
Because I'm a supporter of Bernie.
Why are you a supporter of Bernie?
Because his healthcare reform and taxing the billionaires.
What do you think of the speeches?
I was only able to get the tail end of it, but from what I heard, it was pretty good.
All right, thank you very much, man.
You're welcome.
Is this your whole group right here?
Yes. This is the whole group.
Okay, does anyone have anything to say for KSQD in Santa Cruz about this, about Bernie or AOC or any of the speeches?
Yeah, we love the message that they're putting forward. We think addressing the consolidation of wealth in American society is very important, and addressing the transfer of wealth away from working and middle-class families is how we prevent this consolidation of wealth that strangles working-class families. You know, the reason there's less housing for everyone is because these companies like BlackRock, they buy up all the housing and they drive the rent up. We can't afford to compete against them, so we need to do something to regulate them.
And what's your name?
Miles Dillingham. I'm the president of the Sonoma State Young Democrats.
Sonoma State Young Democrats. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we are just wrapping up this show about the Bernie Sanders AOC event in Folsom, California. They are going to be moving right along to some other event, and you can check the website, Bernie's website, for that tour, for the tour dates. Also important to note that Eric Swalwell, who is a Democrat with District 14 in California, is going to be speaking at a town hall in District 3 in Folsom, which is a currently Republican district. And Kevin Kiley, your run-of-the-mill standard issue Republican, trying to bring in charter schools and supporting bills that basically continue to repeat the lie that the 2020 election was some kind of a fraud that has to now be fixed, and limiting people's rights to vote. That's what Kevin Kiley is all about, folks. So I believe his seat will be up in 2026, and Bernie and AOC are encouraging everyone to get out there and try to turn that seat in California District 3. Bernie Sanders is also raising funds for Abdul El Sayed, who last week announced he was running for the open U.S. Senate seat in Michigan as a progressive Democrat. Before I lose track of everything, I also want to mention that Mayling Obanada, who's on the Moment of Truth team, interviewed Malcolm Harris. That show is up on all our podcast sites now. The author of Palo Alto and the new book on climate called What's Left. Malcolm Harris will be speaking this Thursday at 7 p.m. at Bookshop Santa Cruz, and Malcolm Harris has an excellent analysis of all the issues going on. And Palo Alto was one of the first books, I think, to bring up the idea, I mean, in like current times, of sort of the eugenics and racism that was running amok at Stanford and even through to the beginnings of Silicon Valley, which we're now seeing play out with Elon Musk and his Sig Heil, for Pete's sake, which didn't look, it wasn't confusing to me. I'll say that. Denise, what did you think about listening to all this and the young people speaking at the Bernie and AOC event? We just have a few minutes left, but do you have any last thoughts about being there? And
well, it gives me a little bit of hope, because we're about ready to roll our sleeves up and get walking in flippable seats, and to protect the Democratic seats that won by 100 or 200 votes, and make sure that the Republicans don't come for those seats, and try to get 3 seats. I think we can get 3 seats. I was so inspired, and Bernie's not going to run again, and I'm late to the game, but he's dedicated his whole life to this message. He's not saying anything he didn't say 50 years ago, and he's been right. He's been right for 50 years, and I'm just so blown away by how asleep I've been at the wheel, just being young, raising kids, not paying attention, and to the women, that we still live in a misogynistic community and in a misogynistic county. So I have hope. I have hope for the future.
All right. So women, let's get out there. Mm-hmm. And everyone who identifies as a woman, and all you femme folks out there, let's go. We got to go. We got to defeat the patriarchy, the oligarchy, the broligarchy, the what else? Oligarchy, all the garchies.
Fascist oligarchy.
And guess what? Speaking of patriarchies and broligarchies, Joe Rogan actually was just the right-wing podcaster, sort of like right-wing, sort of toxic masculine dude, was just talking about how it's pretty alarming that people aren't getting habeas corpus right now. I feel like we're at this tipping point. Yeah. And so, folks, we can tip this one way or the other, and we're all going to have to get on one side of the boat to tip it back upright, and then do more work to make sure it's going in the right direction. Moment of Truth gives thanks to our team, Nyanko Nyasu, sound and tech engineer, and our production team, Nyanko, Mei-Ling Obinada, Joy Schendeldecker, and Todd Zimmerman. Todd of Nativeverse Studios created the theme song. Kathy Krizik created our logo. Find our podcast of this show and many others at all your favorite podcast sites under the name Moment of Truth with Amy Chen Mills. Just search that up. And then please subscribe, rate, and share our podcast. This really helps spread the good word. Detailed episode notes and links to our sources and further resources are located at our program pages at www.ksqd.org. Thanks to the entire amazing KSQD team. We just made our pledge drive goal. That's amazing. And thank you for tuning into Moment of Truth. Please contact us at amy@ksqd.org with questions or comments. And remember, if we don't use our democracy, we lose our democracy. Let's get out there, folks.